It's very late on a Sunday night or Monday morning, I suppose, really, I should say. And I'm back in the workshop. I'm still working on the same enclosure that I was working on at least 2 weeks ago. I've been able to come in and do bits and pieces here and there, but it's been really busy the last couple of weeks with holidays and people away, so I just haven't been able to spend as much time here as I wanted. So I figured I'd finish off the wiring and get the in-case battery charging working like I expected, or like I needed it to. So let me quickly show you that and show you what I've been doing. Okay, so here we are. This is that internal module that's going to go into this case back here shortly, and I just laid it out to make sure that everything works as I expect it ought to, and layout is good. This is the cover that will get screwed on later. Put that to one side, and then here in this little caddy we've got, in fact this is a UBR rugged, a very particular type of product from Peplink. Let me pull that out. So that comes in a sled, and the sled slides in, which is pretty neat, as I think you'll agree. So that comes out. Now, first compromise under here is this heat shrink wrapped blob. It's blue. I didn't have any black that was the right sort of color, and you can see the beginnings of a module under here, which is probably of interest. So let's just, before I lift the lid up, we've got a V-mount battery plugged into the V-mount here, of course. Let me pull this up. There should be enough slack for me to do that. Yeah, there is. Okay, so let's talk through what we've got here. And if I pull these cables out a little bit, it'll be easier to explain. Hang on, let's do that. Right, so we've got the V-mount battery, and that's feeding in here on this XT60 connector. I love the XT60s, they're wonderful. And we're cabling it straight to a pair of Wagos. And Wagos just make my life so much easier. I think they're really tidy to use. When you've got multiple cables you need to bring together in a small space, I don't think anything beats them, honestly. So we've got the battery that feeds neutral and positive, DC neutral and positive here, Wagos. And then what we're doing is we're coming back out of here and we're going into there. And this is the secondary input on a DC load balancing board. I think you can see it there. It's from a company called Minibox. It's a wonderful bit of kit. It's not at all expensive, and what it lets me do is bring in two different DC sources, and the highest voltage wins. It's a MOSFET based sort of power combiner effectively. So battery comes in here, and that battery is typically, well, when it's fully charged it's at 16.8 volts, and it's typically around 14.4, 14.8 when it's in use. Remember that lithium ion has a very flat discharge curve, doesn't it? So on the other input we've got, and if we follow it back, we've got this USB-C PD connector, and that one there gives us 20 volts at 5 amps. That's 100 amps of potential input, and that comes into this input on that load balancer. But then we've also break out and we put an input into this module in the front. Now this module is really neat. Actually, I should be able to power it up so we can show you. Let me bring a battery in and plug the power source in. So this module is a constant current, constant voltage. It's a buck voltage regulator. So I can bring 18, 19, 20 volts into the input. And then what I've got it doing here is I've got it set to 16.8 volt max output, and then I'm regulating the maximum current to 1.8 because I don't want an empty battery to drag all 100 amps of power from the USB-C. I want to limit that, control it so it charges up slowly when plugged in, so that I reserve power for the router and for other things that might be connected. And that then squirts power out into the same set of Wagos. So when we plug in 19 volts into this input, because it's higher than the maximum of 16.8 volts on the other input, the secondary effectively gets disconnected, the primary takes over, and feeds power to the router, and the charging current and voltage from this board goes back into the battery. It's quite a neat, tidy way of doing it. The output comes out of this board and goes up to that very bright blue heat shrunk switch here, and then the comes back out of there into this DC barrel, and then the DC barrel goes to the Minifit Junior, which is what plugs into the front of the transit router. Pretty neat, works really well. So my next job is to get all of the other cabling in. I've got to get the SIM injectors back in. I've got to look at the SMA connectors for the antennas and bring the antennas through. I'll show you a bit of that in a minute. But I think this is working out pretty well.